Just right down the road, actually. I won't point which way because people have a tendency to go dig that stuff up, you know. But there's a site right down the road here, real close. About 5 minutes away from here, there's one. There's one about 8 minutes away from here. There's one that's about, I could walk there from here. You'd be there in 5-10 minutes. They're everywhere. Sites are everywhere. I mean, but then, you know, we occupied this land, not just us, everybody occupied this land forever, you know. You know, Cherokees were seen as far north as Colorado, hunting. Yeah, no joke. I forget the guy's name. I read it one day. He said comes across, they're looking for a pass that goes through the Rocky Mountains. And this guy comes up and he says, we come across a hunting group of Cherokees. It's a hunting party. And they asked him, do you know where this pass is? And he says, yes. He says, yeah, you know, you wake up early tomorrow morning, we'll take you over there. They got him up early the next day, and they followed him. And they said, oh, that's just right through there. And then they took off and kept going. But that's a long way to go hunting.
That's all I do is archery, and I want one of your bows. So whenever I can talk to you when you're done, I'd like to talk to you about it.
Okay.
I know where a lot of bow darts at that they'll give me.
Not bad. You ought to start making your own. You won't have to buy one off me.
I want to learn.
Because I'm going to be expensive. I ain't going to lie to you, right? Yeah. I'll tell you straight up, I'm pretty expensive. But that takes away from me. When I make a bow, that's time taken away from me, from my wife, from my family. Even though I enjoy doing it. But I just don't have time, you know, honestly. I'll tell you how to do it, show you how to do it, help you along, but if you buy one off me, that means I got to commit myself to it. Hey, all right. So anytime? OCO folks, welcome to the Cherokee holiday. My name is Noel Grayson. John Dianistakwadoa. I'm here to talk with you a little bit about hunting. We're going to talk about bows. We'll talk about hide tanning. These are the few things that people seem to have a lot of interest in. Okay, now we're going to start off. I'll start off by telling you about Toquest. Okay? That's how you say it. Now, of course, different people say it different ways. Some people say ain't, some people say aren't, okay? I've heard people say Towetch. I always called it Toquest, you know. But, simple piece of river cane, we relied on cane back in the day. We used it a lot. I think nowadays they call it American bamboo. Bamboo and river cane, they're both in just a big grass. They're in the same family. They're kin. Now, the darts that we use with these, more than likely when you hear about darts like this, they're big hardwood darts like this, okay? Now, we would make these as men. When we started young kids out using one of these, okay? We have big gardens. Everybody participates in this garden. Guys, we do some hard labor, okay? We do some hard labor. We till this ground. We build houses, okay? It's up to us to provide. But, ladies, you're the ones who go out there, you plant it, you take care of it, you harvest it, it's yours, okay? We're a matrilineal society. Everything belongs to you women, okay? We had two houses back then. We had a summer house and a winter house that belonged to the women. Children, following their mother's clan because we're matrilineal, belong to the women, right? I don't get on to my kids. My wife and her sister and her brothers, they're the ones that get on to the kids, okay? But although if I see some child who's my clan, I'll get on to him if I see him doing wrong, okay? Because in a matrilineal society, that's your family, okay? Anybody like myself, anybody who's my clan, that makes them my brother, my sister, my uncle, my grandma, grandfather, and if they're small, you know, like younger brother, niece, nephew, you know. But you learn stuff like this off your uncle on your mother's side, okay? Now, you're starting off by taking a piece of cane like this. Like I said, we use river cane for a lot of things. You can actually eat it when it's small. It's like bamboo shoots, okay, in Oriental cooking. But start a young man out, teaching them how to hollow these out. Once you've got it hollowed out, you're going to heat it and you're going to bend it and straighten it out. They don't have to be perfectly straight, but some guys will try to get it as straight as they possibly can. Now the darts, when we make a dart, like I said, we're making them out of hardwood. Now I'm going to show you how to roll this on there, okay, good boys? All right, you boys, you watch this, okay? I may not be your uncle on your mom's side, but trust me, I'll show you how it's done. I don't hold back on information like this. Now, the plant I'm going to use, thistle, okay? GH, this is actually blooming right now. You got to be on top of the game. Anytime you see this stuff, you get it, okay? Because it's not going to be there forever. And you don't just run over there and pick the entire plant. You pick out certain ones and get them, and just keep watching the plant, and just one by one as they come into bloom and close, pick them. Now it's a big purple flower like this. In Cherokee, you hear a lot of guys calling it GH. That's a big purple flower. It's going to bloom. Insects, especially butterflies, like it. When it closes, that's when you pick it. Pick it and store it between two sticks like this. Okay, that holds it shut. To do this, we're going to simply pull this out. That's that purple part of the flower. You're going to pull all this out, saving the down, that white fluffy part, the down of the thistle. Now you give me a minute on this, because now this is test your patience too itself, because you got to pull this out without pulling that stuff out. And like I said, I just picked this about 2 days ago, so it's still relatively fresh. And you can see how it's starting to clean up. I'm going to show you boys how to do this, and it's going to make it simple, okay? Now, it doesn't have to be perfectly clean, but get as much as you possibly can anyway, you know. Now, we would show little boys how to do this, and we would send them off out into those gardens I told you about. They'll go out there, and that's not just going to be one little boy. It's not going to be two little boys. It's going to be an entire village of boys. Now, they're going to be out there, anything that is out there bothering the garden, whether it's a bird or a rabbit, you know, squirrel, whatever, they're going to shoot it. And believe me, they'll pick that up real quick. I can actually remember showing my nephew how to do this back when he was younger, or my nephews. I've showed basically all of them. Little things like this, little things to play with, you know. But in our society, you're supposed to hunt. Now that's pretty clean right there. Close enough, okay? Now, the trick to doing this, okay, you got your dart, back then we either used plant fiber or sinew, ligaments and tendons out of an animal, okay? Now everybody can spiral a string down a stick like this, right? Simple, ain't it? Keep that in mind, because that's all I'm doing. You got to have 3 hands to do it, so I'm going to bite the string. You got to have it tight too when you do this. Next, I'm going to reach in here, I'm going to pull this out. Like so. You see all them seeds on the end of it? We're going to save those in our hand like this, okay? Because you can eat those seeds, okay? You can eat the thistle plant itself when it's small. A lot of people don't like thistle. But if you know how to do this, you like it. Now, I'm going to spread it out between my thumb and forefinger like this. That way it's just not in a big clump in my hand, okay? I'm going to spread it out evenly. Take the dart, I'm going to stick it on the edge right here, about 1/8 of an inch up from the bottom, slip it under it like that, just so it tucks under it, and start spinning it. Can y'all see that? See how that's working? it pinches that thistle against the shaft of the dart as it goes down. Now this is a trick in itself, okay? It's something you learn to do, pushing it up and pushing it inwards at the same time, rolling it down. Now once done, about 3 half hitches will finish it off. And we need something sharp. Good stone tool, okay? Make them sharp. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is take this thing and I'm going to roll it in my hand. Now, what this does is it's going to fluff it out. You'll see what I mean. See how that works? Now that takes up more room inside the blowgun itself. And since we showed little kids how to do this, I'm going to need a volunteer from the audience. A volunteer, a young man. A young man. Don't be scared. Come on up. If I got to be up here, you got to be up here too. There we go. Now let's see, somewhere safe. We can shoot over here. Now all you do is you put that blowgun dart in here. Now you're going to hold it like that. There's no way to aim it, okay? Use something you get used to doing. It's like throwing a rock. Hold it. How about trying for that dirt pile right there? Good shot. Good shot. If you go down there and get that, you can have that. Matter of fact, you can have the whole thing. That's less I got to pack up later. You're welcome. When Cherokee, you say "wadon." Say that one. Now, once you move past the blowgun, we don't actually move past the blowgun. We just kept making blowguns, make them bigger and bigger as we got older, right? You know, we were known to shoot 8 and 10 foot guns using big darts like these one I was showing you like this, okay, using big darts like this. Documents state that we as Cherokees could knock the eye out of a squirrel or a rabbit every single time. Okay, there's William Bartram, I think it was, talked about young men going out carrying nothing but a blowgun, coming back carrying turkeys. Now that's a heck of a feat. Okay, that's a heck of a feat. Somebody who can hunt so good they get a turkey with a blowgun. Now I want to see you bring me one next year, okay? Now, after you progress past the blowgun, though, when you start eventually, you know, you're going to start wanting to play with a bow. You know, you see the other guys, older men, playing with a bow. You're going to want to do that, too. Simple little bows like this. I was telling a young lady today, the funnest part about making a bow, besides shooting it and watching the arrow fly out of it, is knots, character, okay? When you learn how to make a bow, go to everybody, okay? Don't just go to one person, you know, because everybody's got different thoughts on it. All of us have different thought patterns. All pieces of wood are different, okay? One of my favorite things is working these knots like this. That takes a little bit of skill to get all of it. When you make a bow, guys, one growth ring all the way down the entire face of it, right here, okay? Next, you get the size and shape. Now, again, because of wood, the way it is, you have to be able to troubleshoot spots like this. Some people call them problem spots, but if you know what you're doing, it's not a problem, okay? Now, next, you're going to rub this thing down with oil. Back then, it was bear grease. We used bear grease for a lot of stuff back then. We'd slick our hair back with it, okay? We'd rub it on our skin. It was a lotion. Numerous uses for it. But the most important part about making a bow is making sure that it bends evenly. Like so, right? And you can feel it, okay? Now just one of my techniques is when I start getting close to having a finished bow, I take my eyes out of the equation. I don't even look at it. I shut my eyes and pull back on it, and I feel the pressure on my fingers I can tell whether this limb's out or that limb's out, okay? Now, it's something you must develop, okay? It's not like you can just automatically do it like that, okay? Or maybe you can. Maybe you can. I won't say you can't. But strings back then, we'd use everything for a string. I've seen people talk about using pieces of river cane for a string. There's actual documents of that. Bear intestine was our favorite. I've used groundhog. I've used the nape off of a deer's neck, okay? They're extremely thick. Everything else is strong. Groundhog works good. Okay. Now, of course, if you do stuff like this, you're going to have an arrow. Ain't no sense in having a bow if you don't have an arrow. Again, with doing stuff like this, that's a piece of river cane. Okay, I simply heated it and bent it and straightened it out. They're not straight by any means, just like the blowgun. They're not straight by any means when you first get them. So heat it, bend it, straighten it. Okay. Feathers, you can use anything for that. Feathers don't do nothing but create a drag, okay? It keeps the back of the arrow behind the front of the arrow. Now, I know it sounds kind of smart aleck to say it that way, but it's true, okay? It's the easiest way to say it. It keeps the back of the arrow behind the front, creates a drag back there. Creating a drag, the thicker and taller these are, the more it slows it down. So if you're shooting long distance, you want thin, sleek fletching on it, okay? Now, if you're shooting close up, if you're hunting, you can go with a little bit taller fletching on that because it stabilizes. When you shoot an arrow, it actually bends like this from the force of it being pushed, okay? So when it comes off the arrow, it bends this way first, meets resistance against the edge of the bow, bends back this way. By the time it bends back the other way, you want it spined right so it doesn't slap the bow because it makes it click, right? That's enough to scare game. Now, they're all tied together using plant fibers. You can use dog bane. It's everywhere, okay? You can use plant fibers, inner barks off of cedar trees, mulberry trees, anything to tie this on with. I personally myself like sinew, the ligaments and tendons out of deer. For the points, a young man told me today there's a site about 15 minutes away from here, okay? Anywhere there's stone tools. So anywhere there's stone, you're going to find stone tools. This creek right over here has stone in it, okay? I've looked at it. You can use it, right? Anything that you can make sharp. The whiskalias, flint rocks, guys. Now, I won't go into that process. That process takes me a little bit of time. To make a stone point like this, small one, takes me about, say 20 minutes, okay? Which is probably more time than what we have here to be speaking on. Now, one thing about making these, you want to make them sharp, okay? They got to be sharp, all right? Thin, small points like this, okay? Everybody thinks you have to have a real big point to take big game, but that's not the case. Thin, small points were the key to it. Anybody diabetic in the audience? Huh? Anybody know anybody who's diabetic? When they give themselves a shot, it's a small needle, right? Penetrates better, right? You don't even feel it. Same way with this, okay? You want to be humane when you do this. When you shoot a bow and you shoot an animal, you want to give it your best shot. Okay, don't be scared to let go of that arrow, you know. Don't be scared to let go of it, but you want to give it your best shot. You do not want it to suffer. For one, if it suffers, it releases a stress hormone, which actually affects the taste of the meat and actually affects the hide. You know, it may just be me, but it seems to me that hides that are taken off a deer that had like been gut shot, stuff like that, you know, bad shots, seem like they're a little bit harder to tan. And I think it's because of that stress hormone, that whatever it is gets inside of that. But let's say you go out and you get a deer, okay? It's almost deer season, guys. Okay, it's almost deer season. Don't waste the animal. You took that animal's life to extend your own, okay? So when, back in the day, we used to say that when you shoot a deer, you go and you pray for it and you ask forgiveness. Otherwise, you get arthritis in your hands and such, okay? Now, with a hide, you go give it thanks. Now, when you get that hide, use all of it. Eat the meat, use the bones. You can actually use the hooves, okay? They use the hooves. But let's say you lace this thing up. A good way to lace up a hide, build you a standard frame, okay? 4 by 5, 4 foot by 5 foot is big enough for basically any hide that we get around here in Oklahoma like this. Now, when you start lacing it up, poke a hole in it, okay? Hang it from the very top, right here, okay? Now start stretching it out, pulling it evenly all the way around when you lace it up. Now when you make these holes, like these, make them a hand's width apart, right? All the way around it, a hand's width. Now once you got it laced up, you're going to take it and you scrape the meat and the membrane off of it. You can use anything to do this with. I've used stone tools to do it with. I've used clam shells or mussel shells out of the river. I've used a spoon, right? It's already round, got the shape to do it. Just start scraping it. But there is a skin on here. It's a membrane, okay? You have to get rid of that too. Otherwise it will not soften up. And you don't want to get a hide that's already dried, okay? Because that membrane, like this, will grab onto that hide and it gets real tough to take off. So do it while it's fresh. Once you've actually did that, what I do, now there's different ways that you can take the hair off of it, okay? One is to make a lye solution. Simple process, okay? Nothing to it. Get you some water and put some hardwood ashes in it. Stir it around and dissolve it. It turns into lye. Take the hide, submerge it inside of it. The hair will start slipping out of it after a couple of days. Now, guys, if it takes longer than 2 days, make a new solution. Take this out and put it in there, because if you don't, it'll start rotting because of the lye, okay? Then believe me, guys, you do not want to mess with it if it starts getting smelly like that. It'll stop you from doing it ever again. But personally myself, what I like to do is I like to lace it up in the frame, let it dry. Now it's rawhide at this point, so it's going to stretch tight like a drum, and then I start shaving the hair off of it. It's like the shaving we do nowadays, except you're taking the top layer of skin with it, okay? Now, once you've got it all off of there, now you have to get down past the hair and past the epidermis and get to the dermis itself, the true skin. You'll know when you get to that because it's all felty feeling like this, okay? Now you take the animal's brain and you scramble that thing like you scramble eggs. Now, guys, I just use a 5-gallon bucket, okay? Scramble it, add maybe 2 gallons of water to it. I take the hide, stick it inside there and submerge it. Put a rock on top of it because it tries to float back up. The next day I pull it out and I wring it out. And I'll stick it back down inside there and slosh it around, wring it out again, okay? Now I do this about 7 or 8 times. What I'm trying to do is get the oils out of that brain, because there's an oil in the brain that lubricates the fibers, because there is a fibers in a hide just like thread in cloth, right? And so you get them all lubricated up. Now, next thing you do, lace it back up in that frame, and you take a stick, you take any stick, okay, and you rub on it. Because the fibers are lubricated, when you rub on it, it pulls the fibers apart, right? And you rub every inch of it, everywhere, every which direction you can. Now, to give you a rough idea, you rub it till it's dry. Now, how long does it take a piece of wet leather to dry? 4 or 5 hours? Okay, you're going to rub on it like that, but it's not hard. Okay, you rub every direction, and then you can sit down and take a break because it's physically demanding to do it. Okay, take a 30-minute break. Let that thing dry up a little bit. The entire time it's drying, because it's rawhide, it's trying to tighten back up, but you jump up and you start pushing on it. Pull them fibers apart again. Now you do this until it starts turning white. At that point, it's getting dry. Now, it's going to look dry and it's going to feel dry, but it's not, okay? Because the outside will be dry, but the inside of it will be still damp, okay? And so one way you can tell this, guys, to know when it's done, is to put your finger on it. If it's dry, it doesn't leave an imprint, right? But if it's still wet on the inside and you touch it, it'll leave an imprint. Kind of like sticking your finger in mud or something, okay? Now, you do that. Last thing you do to these things, once you finish tanning the hide, is you smoke it. Now, you can see this one has had a little bit of smoke on it. These things come out, when you finish them, they're just white as can be, like a white t-shirt, okay? But it takes a little bit of smoke like this. Now, you take this thing, there's a couple of ways you can do this. One is to sew it up like a sock, like this, right? Leaving the bottom of it open, right? Build you a tripod, dig a hole in there about the size of a coffee can, get you some hot coals out of the fire and put them in there. Get rotten wood. Rotten wood doesn't burn, it smolders. And crumple it up in that hole, and then take that hide and set it right on top of it. That smoke could go up inside there, and it doesn't have anywhere to escape, so the only choice is for it to go through the hide, right? Now, once you achieve one side, you turn it inside out and do the other side. Now, it doesn't take a lot of smoke to do this, okay? Actually, when I did this one in an old style way, okay? I used to hear that they would throw these over a fire, smoky fire, and pull them off. As you can see, it does work, okay? It works that way, but it's far easier if you just sew it up like a sock and channel smoke into it. Now, the more you smoke it, the darker it gets, okay? But we didn't just run around in brown leather like this. Ladies, you took care of your men, right? These are your men. Matrilineal society, when a man marries a woman, basically he belongs to her. And you're the one who goes through her. You're the one who tans these hides. You're the one who makes his clothing. You're the one who designs it, right? You see a finely dressed man walking around, you know he's got a good woman at home taking care of him, right? But, like I said, we didn't just use that color. Ladies, you were dyeing things, okay? You would dye leather red, you'd dye it blue, you'd dye it different colors and dress your man up like that, right? William Bartram talks about this when he come and stayed with us. Now, I reference William Bartram a lot, and I like his books because he wasn't here studying Native Americans. He was a Quaker botanist who was paid by the king to come and study plants. In his journals, he writes, they asked him, they said, how were they dressed? What was the manner of their attire? And he turns around and tells them, he said, they're dressed as differently as me and you, right? Now you look at this, summertime, right? Summertime, you can look out here and say, okay, everybody over here's got on shorts, you know. I'm up here in a pair of blue jeans, this young man over here's in a pair of blue jeans too, right? You know, so we are all dressed different. Got on t-shirts, dress shirts. But, so anybody got any fielding questions? We're live, guys. None? Trapping? Yeah, they had all kinds of traps. I don't really trap too much. I set simple traps, you know, like snares and stuff. That's kind of trapping I do. I don't use leg traps, metal traps, anything like that. But then I got a dog too. He'd probably get into it. But you can do that hide tanning, you know, speaking of trapping, you can do that same process, not just with deer, that works with any hide. Actually, you don't even have to use the brain, to tell you the truth about it. You can just use the oil, the fat, you know, that's on hides and stuff. You can just use that fat, just lace it up, start rubbing on it. And that fat will do the trick too because it's slick. Now, once you learn the concept of what's going on, the sky's the limit when it comes to doing stuff like this. All I did was use that brain oil and lubricate the fibers, okay? So you can use the fat and lubricate the fibers. You can use any kind of oil, anything that's slick, and lubricate those fibers. Because the whole concept is making the fibers pull apart. Yes?
You said they would dye these hides. What kind of dyes were they? Plant-based dyes?
Yeah, they're plant-based.
They crush rock and make dye out of it?
It was,
What kind of plants do they use?
I would assume plant-based. I don't imagine they had red ochre that they were doing stuff with too, you know. But a lot of plant-based dyes, there's a lot of plants out there that you can use to dye things with. One of my favorites, and I haven't tried it, but what's that stuff called? A dogwood. They say the bark of a dogwood tree, if you get that bark and boil it, it turns stuff blue.
Were they also making fabric fibers out of plant-based?
Oh, of course. Of course. I don't have any here with me, but they were using plants to make cordage out of it naturally, because you can make a bowstring. I made one a while back out of just the yucca plant, which is actually pretty strong. If you've ever mowed a lawn and hit a yucca plant with a 3.5 horsepower motor, push mower, it'll stop it like that, right? So it's a pretty tough plant. I think they called it back in the day. Some people call it bear grass, but I think in the old books they refer to it as Spanish sword, because it's got that little point on the end of it and it'll poke you. But yeah, like I said before, the inner bark's off of cedar trees, mulberry trees, dogbane. There's nettles you can use. There's tons of plants out there you can use. And they were making bags. They made clothes out of them. I think it was in Kentucky, Mammoth Cave, that they found a bunch of clothing. They found skirts. They found leggings. They found shoes. They found bags, blouses, things of that nature. And the ones I've seen are kind of skimpy, though. But we didn't look upon the human body like that. Anything else?
What'd you use for a quiver?
Well, you use bark quiver, you use river cane, like a basket quiver. You can use animal hides. We used a lot of stuff. I mean, now a lot of this stuff is all shared by different tribes in the southeast, okay? Like this. All of us used a river cane arrow, and a longbow, okay? We have a 2-feather fletch. Now, I promoted that 2-feather fletch for about the last 30-something years, okay? But people think that we just used it. I've promoted it so much that people have a tendency to think we only used a 2-feather, but no, we also used a 3-feather. Okay. Now, all tribes did that, 2- and 3-feather fletch. With bows like this, one thing that I put on my bows, if you look at it, it's got a diamond knock on it right here. That's typical, okay? That was typical southeastern. Now, Cherokees did it, Creeks did it, Seminoles did it. All the tribes in the southeast use that style of knock, okay? Now, when making a bow like this, every man has his own opinion, right? We're entitled to that. So if you don't want to make that knock on a bow, you don't have to. But families, they pass these down, okay? Your grandmother has a cooking recipe, and she's going to pick out her favorite granddaughter and tell that secret to her, right? And so families have secret recipes. Men, we had secret recipes for making a bow that we only tell our family. Do this, it makes it better. Do this, it makes it faster. Do this, do that, right? Now, of course, I don't let mine die out. Okay, so I just pass them on to anybody. Say, here, have it, take it. Taking care of everybody else is the best thing you can do, right? See somebody in need, you help them. See some young man who has an interest, and it took a little bit to get his interest up here, right? Yeah. But it was worth it, you think? He walked away with a little blowgun at it. You come here after the show, I'll show you close up how to make that dart, okay? But, got to do again, you take care of each other, okay? We take care of each other. Hunting like this, a hunter, guys, a hunter, a warrior, basically the same thing. You take care of those who can't take care of themselves, right? Right? If you see somebody struggling, help them along. You shouldn't have to wait for them to ask for help. If you see somebody who needs help, you help them. If you see somebody who needs food, we would go out, we would hunt, we would take food to them. It was an endless cycle. Right? When I was young, I used to go out, I'd hunt, I'd go collect mushrooms, I'd do all this stuff. I'd always give to the elders, right? You always give to elders. And it's paying me back. Just last year, I had a young man bring me mushrooms. Right? I was messing around. All of a sudden, he comes up, brings it to the house. I was like, There we go. That one went full circle. Yeah. I hope he comes back this year. But you feed those who can't feed themselves, okay? You feed the elderly who can't get out. You know, I guess he thinks I'm old and can't get out, you know. I do appreciate it, though. And you feed the young ones. They can't feed themselves. And it comes back to you. When they get old, right, the ones who hunt today get old, and that young one they fed grows up, comes into age, and he feeds them. Feeds that next generation. Look back about 7 generations. Always make sure you're leaving something for them. I haven't cut wood in a long time. Somebody told me today they know where a bunch of bodark is, right? You know, cut this wood. I thought, oh, yeah, okay. I haven't cut wood in a long time, but I know there's generations and generations of young Cherokee bow makers coming up behind me that might need that wood. I don't need it, right? I got enough. I got to figure out what to do with the stuff I have.
So your bows are made out of Osage orange?
Back in the southeast, they were made out of black locust and hickory, elm. Okay, you can make a bow out of anything. But when we came here after removal, I mean, we were coming here way before removal and passing by here and through here. But when we got here, we found the yellow locust tree. The Osage were around this area, and that's what they were using. That's why they call it Osage orange. They were the first natives that they seen using that tree. But when we came here, we picked up on it. It's a locust tree. It's in the locust family. That's why we call it yellow locust. And I was told at a young age I was calling it bodark. You know, bodark. My mother told me, said, don't call it that. That's not what it is, you know. That's actually a French term, guys. Bois, wood of the ark, bois d'arc, okay? And they don't mean like Noah's ark. They mean the fact that it arcs, right, when it bends. Right? Wood of the ark. Not this way, okay? Like Noah's ark. But black locust, what was that gentleman's name? You give me a second to think. It's been a while since I actually talked to anybody in public about stuff like this. James Adair, if I'm not mistaken, actually was talking about that. He said Cherokees are the finest bow makers of all mankind. So if you're going to be a bow maker, that's you know, pretty good reputation to uphold, right? You won't. But I think he was saying we were good bow makers because we used black locust. Now, black locust won't let you lie. I use bodark. Bodark's a tough wood. It'll let you lie a little bit. If you make a mistake on it, it'll say, you'll let it slide, you know. It'll let you get away with a lot of stuff. But when you use black locust, because the compression of it isn't real good, I mean, you know, it'll get compression fractures where it will crack. But I think that's probably why, because we had to take special care with that black locust to make it work right.
I got one for you. When you were talking about straightening the arrows, you said you were using heat. Did you use dry heat or wet heat?
Dry.
Dry heat?
Dry. Sometimes I'll boil it, you know, steam it. It just depends how I feel, but mostly I use dry heat. Now, when you straighten arrows, okay, be selective. Okay, be selective when you pick river cane. Don't pick a piece of river cane you look at and it's got like almost a 90-degree bend in it, you know. It'll fight you every bit of the way, and you might end up throwing it away, and you just ruined that one, okay? You just killed that thing for no reason at all. So be selective with them. Now, I myself, I don't make my stuff perfect, okay, but this is an imperfect world we live in. And if I just get it close, that's good enough for me. This arrow, for an example. Let's see if we can focus on this just a little bit. I don't know if you can see it from that far back, but it's not perfectly straight, okay? It's pretty straight. It's close enough for me, okay? But when you shoot it, it's going to wiggle. Let's see if I can get it to do it. You can see it doesn't wiggle that much. It's going to wiggle that much in flight, okay? But I'm not too worried about it. You know, the thing about hunting is you try to get as close as you possibly can. You get so close you can't possibly miss. That's a trick to hunting, okay? No better than I shoot. I need to get that close, guys. Now we got the Cornstalk shoot. Speaking of shooting close, okay, we got the Cornstalk shoot going on just right over here at the Thornton Archery, okay? It's just, I think it's right over in this way. In Cornstalk shooting, we shoot anywhere between 80 and 120 yards, depending on, okay, who sets it up. We set up a stack right here of cornstalks, and we just turn around and tell somebody else, hey, go set some up over there. And they take off walking. We don't know how far we're shooting, right? We could be shooting anywhere between 80, 120, but that is one of the reasons this stayed alive. Okay, we've actually passed that Cornstalk shoot on to the other southeastern tribes. I don't know if they were ever doing it. Back in the day, I used to ask other tribes, the Creeks and Seminoles and stuff, I'd say, do you Cornstalk shoot? Do you do this game? You know, because it's a game, guys. It's actually a gambling game. Back then it was. And they would say, I don't think so. But then maybe I was asking the wrong people. Right? Never know. But we have either introduced it to them or reintroduced it to them because everybody's doing it nowadays. If you're interested in archery, I would advise you to go watch the Cornstalk shoot. And correct me if I'm wrong, okay? Which, you know, I've been wrong before. It doesn't bother me, okay? That's how you learn, by being wrong. If I'm not mistaken, at one time during the Cherokee holiday like this, instead of Miss Cherokee, she was called Miss Cornstalk because of the Cornstalk shoots. Now, what is a Cornstalk shoot? Like I said, we take cornstalks, break them off about 3 foot long, stack them 3 foot high, put 4 sticks in the ground, a foot apart, make a foot square, and stack those cornstalks in them. Rick them up. When you shoot, okay, it's a little bit of skill involved in it. You got to be able to hit that target from we'll say 100 yards, okay? But once you hit it, there's luck involved in it because you don't know how many cornstalks your arrow is going to penetrate. And it's all based off of that. When everybody shoots, you go down there, pick out the cornstalks that hit, and start counting the cornstalks that are attached to it. Tally it all up. Back in the day, it used to go to 21. Nowadays, we go to 50. How about it, guys?
Did the Cherokee use atlatls as well as bows?
Of course.
When did they change?
They never really did. No, they don't call it that, okay, in particular. The atlatl, that's like an Aztec word. It means a spear thrower. I think, now I'm not a fluent speaker at all, guys, but gatiste, like, because the atlatl means a throwing stick. It doesn't refer to the spear, it's calling it a throwing stick, the stick that you use. An atlatl, when you use that, it makes your wrist act like a second elbow, compounds the force of it. Give me a second to think. That gentleman's name, Lieutenant Henry Timberlake, if I'm not mistaken, talks about the use of a feathered spear. And I think that's what they're referring to is an atlatl, or gatiste.
They were bigger than arrows.
Uh-huh. Yeah, a feathered spear. Yeah, you got to put feathers on those spears. Otherwise, it's like shooting an arrow without feathers. Gives it direction, gives it a little bit of drag, keeps the back end of it behind the front end.
Do you make arrows with other types of wood or just?
I will make an arrow out of anything, honestly. I will make an arrow out of anything, okay, because they had arrows that were used in the southeast, and they were actually the end of it was about that big, okay? It was made out of a piece of hickory that the end of it was about this long, about that big. It was a blunt, but they shaved it down and got it down to arrow size. Now that took somebody a little bit of work to do that. That's probably one of their prized possessions, a blunt arrow, but you use blunts. Small game, things of that nature, is just blunt force trauma that takes game out with those things. But I'll use Yopon holly, okay, there's not Yopon. What's that called? Privet hedge. I'll use privet hedge. It's everywhere. It's taken over. You know, if somebody wants to do something about the environment, they ought to start getting rid of that stuff because it takes over everything. It's down in the fields by the river. It takes over. It's choking out the river cane that's down there because, you know, I ain't never found a real good use for it other than arrows. And then it's not really that good because to me, it's personally, it's kind of heavy. But anything you can get straightened out, put a sharp rock on the end of it, it's going to work. Anything you can straighten out, dogwood shafts, you know, red osier, you know, just anything. I went hunting with my brother a lot, brothers, back when we were kids, and my brother Sean, he's passed on now. He would make the ugliest arrows. I guarantee it. You know, we had chickens. You know, all families back then had chickens. He made the ugliest arrows. Me and my brother Webster, we try to straighten them out, get them real nice and pretty. He just grab a stick, you know, and just tie chicken feathers on it. Well, I seen him make a shot. He was the best natural shot I know, right? He went over there, pulled up a piece of grass out of the ground, raked his finger down it to clear off the extra limbs, and shot a squirrel. No feathers, no nothing. Just pulled it up and shot that squirrel. Hit it right dead in the middle of the face while it was running down a limb. But he was a good natural shot. But, you know, I never could get him to cornstalk shoot. He just didn't want to do stuff like that. But, yes, you can make an arrow out of anything. I use cane because it's abundant. It's light. I like it. Now, a lot of that stuff they did back then, when they made arrows back then, they're going to reuse this. This is my old stand to, okay? I've always just attached my points straight to the shaft. But back then, they actually used a foreshaft, where they would attach this stone point to a smaller piece of wood, insert it into the hollow cane. It's called a foreshaft. That way, if this breaks, right, you know, they could just pop it out, whittle another piece, make more pieces, and stick it in there. And they didn't have to go through all the trouble of straightening out the arrow. They just made these. But that's my old go-to right there. Now, you usually do that for inferior shafts also. With stuff like this, I trust the cane we got around here. It's a good river cane, okay? So I tie mine straight in. But then, guys, I don't have to rely on this, okay? We might go back to that. That's for sure, guys. You know what the economy's like. We might have to go back to it. But as of right now, I don't have to rely on this. I go hunting, I enjoy it. You know, if I get something, hey, all right. You know, if I don't get something, I'm not worried about it. I'll pick something up from McDonald's on my way home, ain't it, boys? No, seriously. Yeah. I haven't went hunting in about 2 years now, though. I was actually facing some health issues past couple of years, so it's kept me from actually getting out and doing stuff.
When you hunt with stone tips?
Of course. I'm too cheap to go to the store and buy stuff. This is all right here. It's free. And that's what now he gave it to us. It's a God-given right to be able to feed yourself, right? But yeah, I do. With arrows like this, a lot of times if I'm doing this like this, I use small points, right? I think there's a regulation on point size. It's got to be 1.5 inches long by 1 inch wide. It's got to weigh 100 grain, you know, at least 100 grain. It doesn't need to be that, guys, right? That right there is big enough to take any game on the North American continent, right? You get the right shot placement's the entire key to it. Small points. You find them everywhere, right? People call them bird points because they were small like this, but that's used for taking big game. All that's for is just to cut the skin. Once it gets inside there and gets to the heart and lungs, they're going to go down. You don't want them to suffer, though. So if you guys get a chance, you take child hunting, right? Show those young boys their place in life, which was to be a provider, to be a protector. Okay. Well, how about it, y'all? Huh?
It was once said, it was once written, God does not detract from man's allotted time, the hours he spends hunting.
He does not what?
Detract.
Oh, yeah.
He does not detract from man's allotted time, the hours he spends hunting and fishing.
Uh-huh.
We understand that any Cherokee citizen can hunt on Cherokee land without a permission from the Oklahoma government. True?
Yes. Yes. Your tribal card for us, your tribal card is your hunting and fishing license.
Is that for any tribe?
No, I don't know about any tribe. I know it's for us. I'm not up to date. I never paid much attention to the hunting and fishing license stuff anyway, guys. Like I said, it's a God-given right to feed yourself.
I think it's within the Cherokee reservation, Cherokee citizens.
Yeah, it is. That part of it is, but I don't know about other tribes. But Cherokees are always in the forefront of doing things. I assume if they haven't done it already, other tribes will follow suit and start exercising that right. Mm-hmm.
From start to finish, how long does it make a
That's a good question. Now, when I was young, I had the luxury of youth on my side. I made one in 2 hours. No joke, I made one in 2 hours, and I only know this because me and my wife were sitting there talking, and pretty soon she said, I'm going to go inside and I'm going to get supper ready, and I said, okay. I said, I'm going to mess around with a piece of wood, and I grabbed that piece of wood and I started chopping it out. But it was a good piece of wood, right? And once I actually chopped it out, which didn't take that long, I bent on it, it was pretty close. I put notches on it, put a string on it, and sat there and tillered it out real quick. But again, I had the luxury of youth on my side, okay, and it was just a good, exceptionally good piece of wood that just fell into place. But I would say I don't get in a hurry when I do this. I think when they talk about creating things, they call it the muse. Okay, when I do stuff, I have to wait till I catch the muse. I do a better job. Right now, I can sit there and beat on rocks all day long and just, close, slap on them, close, just sit them down. But we used to do that back in the day too. Those were trade blanks. I could go out to a quarry and I could knock a bunch of blanks out, unfinished points, stuff like that, and I could bring them back and I could trade with them. It was just like a currency, right? We had trade routes all over North America. There's actually accounts of us going out to the islands off the coast of Florida in canoes paddling out there, right? Trading with the islanders. Bear skins, beeswax, tallow, grease, things of that nature, deer skins. We had trade routes everywhere. You find stuff that, now like say obsidian, since we're talking about stone. Obsidian, it's out west where the volcanoes are. It's volcanic glass, okay, it's igneous. They found that as far as the Mississippi. They never find it anywhere past the Mississippi, but anywhere west of the Mississippi they will find obsidian. And that is a good way to carry that stuff. I know a gentleman who found one over here, not too far from here, on a gravel embankment. Found a point about that big. I got a good friend of mine, I won't say his name, and he finds them over by where he lived or grew up at. Finds obsidian points. And I've told him, I said, don't tell nobody where it is. Don't tell me. Don't tell me where it's at, because I'll go look. I can't help myself. I have no self-control. I'll go over there and start digging around looking for stuff.
What do you feel about dry wood, making a bow out of dry wood, or do you like, what's your preference?
I like using seasoned wood. Honestly, I like using seasoned wood. When I was younger, when I was young, I would actually use a green piece of wood. Okay, because you can take a piece of wood, it's like taking a leaf off a tree, you let it lay out in the sun, it'll dry out faster because it's thinner. So you can split your wood down to just above finished, right, and just let it dry out, right? Now, there's a difference between dry wood and seasoned wood, okay? Anybody ever work on an old oak house? We got a few of them here in Tahlequah, okay? That oak wood, when it seasons out, it gets hard as a rock, okay? Now, some good key components about wood. One is elasticity, the backside of the bow, right? Being able to bend like this. Another one is the compression of the bow, how much it can take being compressed, okay? Now, when you season a piece of wood out, it gets hard, right? You know, just like those old oak houses. When you remodel an oak house, you can't really even drive a nail in it, right? Anybody who's ever done it knows what I'm talking about. And so it's just my own personal belief that if you season wood, it gets stronger, right? Although they knew.
Is it harder to work?
No, it's the same. To me it is anyway, you know, to me it is. No difference in it. Just follow one growth ring, get the shape you want out of it, save the inside of it, make it bend evenly. Rub it down with oil when you're finished with it. Seal it. Right? Now, what that sealing does, when you rub it, when we were rubbing bear grease on it, you dry it out, but when you rub that bear grease on it, it's like a moisturizer that you use on your hands, but it seals it from the elements. It's like putting furniture polish on your furniture, folks. Like putting wax on your car. Excuse me?
The draw weights, like how much force is in here of each shot?
Oh, the draw weight of a bow. Well, like this. Now, guys, I can't hardly pull a bow back anymore. You know, for some reason I ended up getting old and just can't do it. But this is about 45, 50 pound. Okay, that's about my max. That's about all I can pull back. And they actually did have little short bows like this, even shorter than this. Cherokees, right? You know, the studies I've done, they actually shot bows, some of them, only about this big. And you find those in museums. But they also shot big bows like this, what you would consider a war bow. Now, these bows like this are in excess of 100 pound. We're talking 150, 200 pound bows. But men were stronger back then. They lived more strenuous lifestyle. Now, how many of you guys remember climbing trees? We climbed a lot of trees when we were young, right? Now, just doing that, just being a child, being out climbing trees and stuff like that, builds a lot of hand strength, builds a lot of upper body strength because you're pulling yourself up, right? So those kids played hard like that, right? And so they were strong enough when it got time that they could pull big, heavy bows. Lieutenant Henry Timberlake talks about this, and he says that his men get a hold of a Cherokee bow and they cannot pull it back. Right? I think it's DeSoto, when he talks about it, getting a hold of a southeastern bow, heavy bow like this, said the men cannot pull the hand to the face. And so basically what he's saying is they couldn't get a full draw on it. Right? Tell you the truth about it, guys, I can't get a full draw on this one. I don't know how much it weighs, but it's a good, heavy, hard shooting bow. I can only get it back about right here. Right?
Speaking of, when you traditionally pull back a bow, what type of style?
I use Mediterranean. Although when we shot back then, it was a different style. I talked to somebody earlier today and we were talking about that. A myth is that we actually pinched the arrow. You know, you see little kids doing this. When they grab a bow, they pinch it like this and pull back on it, okay? Now, that's not too far off from how we actually did it, but we grabbed it. We grabbed under it 3 fingers. Let me do this way, guys. Let me do something real quick like. It'll be a lot easier to show you. Now, I want you all to focus on my hands right here and how I'm holding this, right? You're going to knock it right here, like this, okay? 3 fingers under. Even the English shot 3 fingers under like this, okay? But right here, 3 fingers, I'm going to take these 2 off because we pinched it like this, okay? But we were pulling back with these 3. And so it almost looks like you're making a fist on it like this. Can y'all see that? Now that's a different style of shooting, okay? Now I practiced that when I found out that that is how we shot. I played with the bow a lot, shooting like that. But I grew up shooting Mediterranean 3-finger, 1 on top, right? Just easier for me to shoot that way. I got better control over that arrow. I know you guys have seen that movie Prey, right? Y'all see that? You see how they shoot like this? Right? That's an issue style. California Indian guy was doing that. They've seen him doing that, shooting like this. Now, guys, I haven't tried that one. I haven't tried that one yet. That seems a little bit dangerous, you know. If I do try it, y'all better run. No But it is a style. They did shoot like that. Yeah. Any more questions on it, guys? Anything? Yes, sir. Tips for stalking. Be quiet. Be quiet. I usually don't stalk. If I see something, I'll try to sneak up on it. You know, get downwind of it, you know, because they got good noses. Stay, you know, just get downwind. I don't usually stalk. I usually just sit somewhere. A lot of times I don't even sit in a tree. I'm too lazy and too old to be climbing trees. You know, just go up and just find you a couple of trees, like say this chair right here. Find you a couple of trees pretty close together and hunker down in between them. Right? You're blocked from this way, you're blocked from that way. But be quiet. You know, if you're going to stalk something, you got to be quiet. You got to be sneaky. I snuck up on some buddies of mine one time doing that. You know, I used to, you know, goof around a lot, you know, pick on my friends. I snuck around on them, and I guarantee it, I got about from here to that pole right there away from them. And they didn't even know I was there. I grabbed a tree that was laying there, you know, about yay big around, had a bunch of dead leaves on it and stuff. I grabbed that tree and just started shaking it. Scared them pretty bad, you know. One of them said, "Hey, that was pretty good. You snuck right up on us." The other guy, he was kind of mad because I scared him. But, yeah, I don't usually stalk, you know. You got to be pretty good to do that. No, actually, that's B50 Dacron. I buy it in big spools and roll it the same way, though. You know, it's a reverse twist, which is one of the things that we used. You can use plant fibers. You can use plant fibers do that same thing. Twist it back, twist it back. All you do is make those 2 things keep trading places all the way down. And the same way you'll do those. I haven't made a primitive string. I think I made one last year out of a yucca plant, but I haven't made one out of like hide or sinew and stuff like that in a long time. Before all this big mess started, I was making one out of groundhog, and I forgot the oldest trick in the book. Hide the hide. Don't let it dogs get it, okay? I come in one day, I had that thing, and the hair was actually starting to slip off of it. I had actually taken it and soaked it, right? I wanted to take the hair off of it, not the epidermis, right? Because I wanted it for the strength of it. I took it, scraped some off, set it down, wandered off. Next day I walk out there and I thought, I'm going to finish that thing. I walk out there and I think, where's it at? Dog got it. And so, yeah, that was about the last one I tried to make. Anything else, folks? Speak up just a little bit, please. No. No, I've never heard that one. I heard a story one time about women making a string out of their hair. Yeah. But I won't tell that story. You got to go to a storyteller to get that story, to get the full impact of it. Well, Hilly.
10:18. 10:18.
Okay. Well, guys, I think I have to go. It is 10:18. I want to thank y'all for coming out and listening to me. I hope you enjoyed it. Okay. It's been a while since I did this. It's been a while since any of us have got out and done anything, right? So just take care. Mask up, guys. You know, it's going to be crowded. Take care of yourself. Take care of your neighbor. Take care of everybody around you. And that's just slight inconvenience for me. I'm not used to wearing a mask either, guys. I took it off, months ago. But now I got to wear it back again. Good thing about wearing a mask, guys, we don't got to shave, right, men? You just put a mask on, go to work. Don't even worry about it. Well, I want to say enjoy the holiday, guys. I want to thank you for your time. What on?